G'day and welcome to Breaking Even Without Al Paton. We are deep into the bench this week with Al on leave and a few others away and sick and injured. So you've got Patch. It's me, Patch. I am hosting Breaking Even with Al Paton without Al Paton this week, and I've brought in some of my good friends. I've brought in Dan Batten. Welcome, Dan.
Welcome. We've done a full Geelong here. Plenty of late changes.
A lot of late changes. It's a bit brutal, but it's also very exciting because Tarquin Oakley. Tark, welcome to your first SuperCoach pod.
Thanks, Max. It's great to be here.
We've brought you in. You're no sub-vest. You're straight into the game, straight off the SSP signing, and you're in.
Turn on debut, I reckon. I'm backing him in.
Backing him in. How's your season been going?
Oh, it's been a bit up and down. I started kind of like Tim Michelle, but not as bad, thankfully.
Whack.
Already got a
whack
whack
straight out. Sorry, Tim.
That's contested possession right off the top.
But yeah, I'm kind of surging back towards the top 10K, just sitting outside at the moment. So season getting back on track.
Wonderful. For everyone listening or watching on the Code Sports YouTube page, like, subscribe, comment. Please give us reviews. Plenty of reviews. We don't quite have the Phantom's promise of Simeon Thomas Wilson bleaching his hair. That's not quite happening, but please do leave us some reviews and subscribe to SuperCoach Plus as well. You get break-evens, price projections, optimized live scores, everything you need to make your team run like a well-oiled machine. Trade assist as well. Give it a go. See how you go. Gather Round is done. How did we go round 5 back to best 22? Dan, how was your week?
Well, talk about timing your run. I was. So it wasn't such a positive weekend for my team. 2-1-3-7. Was in the top 3K now, out to 5,000. Lost 60 points in fielding O'Sullivan on the Thursday night instead of Zach Reid. I actually recommended to a mate, Zach Reid's going to get plenty of intercepts against and if they do the same tactic as the Cats did the previous week with Zach Guthrie getting 17 marks, they're going to do it again. Of course, he tons. So that was difficult up on the hill, watching that with him in my bench. And then I went to the Barossa on Sunday, and Luke Traynor punched out an 80. He looked like he was going to ton as well. So, and also that was a difficult watch, watching Caleb Sarong, scoring 8 points in the first quarter. But he did get to the ton, luckily. So, I did trade him with Ashcroft, though, which was a positive. That wasn't looking so good at halftime, but, overall a fairly decent week.
Delightful. Tark, how did you go with Gather Round?
Yeah, look, it wasn't too bad. It started off a bit shaky. Like Dan, I had the couple defenders on the bench, like Traynor and Reid. I didn't really have a decision to make there, but they were stuck on the bench. Traded in Zach Merritt, which I was quite happy with, because I didn't think he'd actually get the 120 he got against Melbourne. It was more looking at his fixtures to come, where he has West Coast and Richmond in the next few. So the 120 was actually a bit of a bonus. I decided not to boost to get rid of Joel Frazier. I thought I'd hold my boost and hope that he could come good. That failed. So this week, Joel Frazier is gone.
He's in the gun. We will kick things off, as we do every week, with the HBF injury report. Every Supercoach knows that managing injuries is the key to success. This is the injury report, proudly brought to you by HBF, your health dream team. Right off the top, huge news. Marcus Bontempelli is a test this week. Goodness gracious me, it's good to see him back. On the downside, Nick Bryan has done an ACL and is done for the season. What that does to Sam Draper, we'll see, but that's terrible news for him. Jeremy McGovern is a test and could be back this week, while Elijah Hewitt is also available.
Yeah, and Connor McDonald for Hawthorn with that syndesmosis is a test this week. That'll be a big in for the Hawks if he can get up for Easter Monday. Sam Lawler is also a test, and that's big news for the super coaches that held the young Tigers star. He got that 100. Everyone was thinking his cash gen's going to come now, and then he got that injury, so everyone will be hoping that he can get back this week. Jordan Ngoe is also available for Collingwood, which, how does that affect Ned Long? That's a bit of a watch. And then Callum Mills is also 1 to 2 weeks away for those looking at another mid-pricer, but beware with how the mid-prices have treated us so far.
That's right. And then on to Liam O'Connell, who was a cash cow for some. Some may have held on to him. He's a test with that concussion. Tom Stewart, who I think a lot of Supercoaches are going to be watching. We're looking to get his price down. He's available with illness, although with the Cats. We can never really be sure until an hour before the bounce. Jake Kolajasny is another one, not so relevant for Supercoach, but he is available. But what it could do to Sam DeConing doesn't mean he pushes more into the ruck. We'll wait and see. And George Wardlaw is available for North. That's big news for the Phantom.
Huge for the Phantom. And from the MRO perspective as well, James Peatling will be missing a week, and Pat Voss didn't get off last night and will be facing 3 weeks. Does that give us some more hope for Neil Erasmus? We will find out. That's a wrap on this week's injury report. Thanks to HBF. Make the smart move. Join HBF, your health dream team. Lads, some rookie roulette. We've had some issues with rookies, fielding some and not others, and benching. Shout out to Tim again, copping another whack for not fielding Riley Bice the week he went big, and then not fielding and then trading out Zach Reed. Dan, if you've got both this week, are you fielding Levi Ashcroft or Xavier Lindsay?
Levi Ashcroft for sure. I think Levi. Are we going a short answer or?
Yeah, short answer.
Short answer.
This is
just
Lair.
Levi Ashcroft. Bang.
Yep.
And then Connor O'Sullivan or Luke Traynor?
I'm going Luke Traynor this week. And then Patch, so Riley Bice or Zach Reed?
I kind of like Zach Reed. I reckon he'll line up on his brother and could just have a night out, but field both if you can. Dan, Nevitt or Clay Hall?
I have both. I think it is probably, that's tough. Hall, I'd say. More centre bounces for him.
Yep.
And Christian Moraes or Tom Gross? Who are you feeling out of those?
Yeah, Tom Gross. I think I'm bringing him in this week as a trade, so yeah, he's going straight on field. Patch, Sam Davidson or Caden Cleary?
Caden Cleary has the better recent form, but we'll talk about Sam Davidson a bit later. I think he bounces back, so Sam Davidson for me. And then to wrap us up, Dan, Max Hall or Finn O'Sullivan?
Gee, the role of Finn O'Sullivan even took a kick in over the weekend. I'd probably go for him just because he's got more upside, especially with best 23. I think you can afford to go him over Max Hall.
Lovely. So some of those guys we are looking to bring in this week, Tom Gross especially. How do we feel about Gross and Cleary? Do we boost to get both of them this week? Do you double downgrade this week? Can you skip one? Are you skipping one? Tark, what do you reckon we do?
I'm looking at skipping one, and I think I'm going Tom Gross just because of that midfield role. He had 20 CBAs against Carlton. I think West Coast fans were saying he was basically the only positive from that match, and that and maybe the final siren when the game was over. So yeah, I think Tom Gross just with that role. Caden Cleary is a high half forward. I know he's been kind of proving that role wrong. Normally Supercoach, we don't typically look at the half forward role as a really good moneymaker, but he's been tackling really well as well. But I think Tom Gross is the safer option just with that role.
Yep. Dan, is there any chance that Neil Erasmus or Saad Al Houli jump above them on that rank? Like, how are you feeling about as the rookie whisperer? How are you feeling this week about what we do?
Look, in terms of the Neil Erasmus question, I think that's a no. And also, you saying Pat Voss could potentially open the door for Neil Erasmus to come in. Don't think it's a like-for-like selection.
Not really,
but
you never know.
Stranger things have happened. That's all right. I actually might be getting all three this week, but that's a little bit to do with my structure at the moment. So I've got two defenders before trades. I have two defenders on field, and probably want to get it to three to be able to field a Bice, Traynor, Zach Reed, and probably move a Max Holmes into my flex position, because a lot of the midfield rookies, we're talking about fielding a Clay Hall or a Mitch Nevitt, it might be a bit difference between a 45 and a 50. These defensive rookies look a lot more reliable, which is not what we were saying 3 weeks ago. So, it sounds crazy to say Saad Al Houli, is a good option when he's been the sub the first 2 weeks. But I think, he's a mature ager. He's given the Dons a lot over those 2 weeks. Obviously, we've got to wait and check for the teams to see that he isn't the sub, which, makes you a little bit nervous pulling the trigger. But I think he's a good option. Once that low score, that 10, the score of about 10-15 comes out of his 3 on average, he'll start to shoot up. Obviously, he's only got a -10 break even, so he can probably afford to wait one more week. But, if he does score that 60-70, he's at 140K. So
yeah, I'd be pretty happy to grab him next week.
Exactly,
at
yeah.
a slightly more elevated price. We've been paying up for them all season anyway, so I think he's one to look out for. Elijah Sardis, if he's named, he was named an emergency this week. We were chatting before that it's a bit weird that he was injured and then back from injury and then named an emergency, and Brad Scott was talking about, his hand might not have been ready to go.
Yeah.
If he's named, especially with Jai Caldwell out, is he someone you'd be considering?
I still think it's very shaky, isn't it? I mean, you're a Bombers fan. Like, you're not dropping Will Setterfield, are you?
Not after that, no.
Yeah. So, and that's been their problem in the midfield, right? Where, they've got so much of that one same player. Darcy Parish is also going to come back eventually. I think he's had a bit of a setback. But
I don't think he's far off.
And even when he was playing Sardis, he was getting 50% game time a lot of the time. Obviously, it was very impressive in that Adelaide win, or Adelaide loss rather. But yeah, I've got him at the moment, and I think if he's not named this week, and probably just I've waited long enough, probably cut ties with him. But onto Tark's point, I'd probably say that Tom Gross is the number one priority. He was entered the year as a top 10 pick, potential top 10 pick. Last year slid really through no fault of his own, just others rising up draft boards, and he didn't really have that standout trait. But as we saw on the weekend, he's so tough. He can win the footy, and he's got the role too. So I think that was probably the one question mark. Whereas Caden Cleary is probably pretty steady. I'd be recommending both this week just because you look at the forward rookies at the moment. Connor Stone, your Isaac Caco's dropping 30s. Yeah. If you want to trade out Davidson, then he's a good option, I think. And I think his floor is going to be pretty low as well because he does lay a lot of tackles. Had a few CBAs over the 2 weeks as well. And I think he probably would have started opening round by the sounds if it weren't for that off-field indiscretion. So, yeah, I really like both of them this week. I would recommend a double downgrade and potentially even the triple if you like Sardo Holy.
Yep. Ned Long has also been popular in the trade-ins. Despite being quite expensive, he is, if I can bring it back up, at $280,000. Tark, is he someone you've got any interest in with a break-even of 28 coming off a 114?
Yeah, look, he's priced at that 280K, as you said, so he's not a rookie anymore. So you're kind of looking at that mid-price again, and you want that kind of reliable scorer and a mid-pricer to, pump out, 80s.
Yep.
And he hasn't really shown that this season. He's got 2 tons, but then he had that ton a few weeks ago, backed it up with a 50-odd, and then he was sub the next week. So just that role to go, he's back this week. Not 100% sold on Ned Long.
Just on that one. So obviously you say those lower scores. In his 2 not-a-sub-affected games, it's a 113 and a 114.
Yep.
I mean, a lot of people have traded in Ryan Marrick. A lot of people have traded in Humphrey. I traded in Humphrey a couple of weeks ago. Like, Long's looking like a better option than Humphrey at the moment. The only difficult thing is the midfield at the moment, that being a midfield versus a forward. But then again, our midfield rookies aren't really scoring that well either. So if you don't trust a Lindsay or a Moraes or all that sort of thing, you could, if you have the trades and you really like what he's doing, you think, okay, I can upgrade 80K. Ned Long, he's giving me scoring and then also give me some cash gen as well. Obviously, it's not going to come right away because he's still got that 26 from round 4 in his 3 on average. But once that goes out, he's going to fly up. So I don't mind it as a bit of a pod option if you haven't burnt too many trades. If you're not like Tim Mitchell and you haven't burnt through 15 trades already.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but on the flip side, he's been sub 3 times.
That is true.
Is he going to be sub again? Yeah. I'm not
I
confident.
think Craig McRae actually said post-game like he's not going to be the sub anymore. So, but do you believe coaches? I don't know.
I don't.
He's a pretty believable
anymore.
guy, McRae.
He's got good energy, but do you? Yeah, I don't know if I trust him with my firstborn child, Ned Long. I don't know.
It was the sort of performance though that it was. I was actually about to bring him in before his price changed for round 2. He was going that well, and then obviously it was the sub and had to change plans there. But yeah, I think that was like I was there on Friday night, and it was the sort of performance that you think surely he's not going to get the vest anymore. Like it was imposing.
I mean, yeah, but I did think that after that first ton that he had as
true.
well.
Yeah.
So anyway, we'll move along. We've got who are we looking to, because upgrade season has begun. It's been declared open by on the Phantom's Lair. Tark, have you got anyone you're targeting? Just before we get to questions, who are you looking at bringing in over the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, well, obvious one is Nick Dacos with that great run. He's got, I think I've looked at, his next kind of 8 weeks and there's no real kind of tag the obvious tag that stands out.
Yep.
So he's a big one. A little bit of a pod is Dylan Moore.
Oh, okay. Hawthorn bias immediately.
Big Hawthorn fan, and I don't have any Hawks in my team at the moment. So I feel like I need to remedy that. But you look, Connor McDonald's back this week. So he takes a bit of that half-forward role that Moore previously had. Will Day obviously out for 4 months, and Dylan Moore did go into the midfield in the last quarter against Port Adelaide and had 12 touches, and he had the most CBAs that he's had all season in that game. He had 50% CBAs. He hadn't gone past 20, I think, before that game, and he turned up. So I think Dylan Moore is a bit of a pod option. 450K, I think he sits at the moment. And we do have, of course, all those DPPs as well coming in. So it's a bit of a roughie, but I might wait one more week and see how he goes. And then
at that price, that's really tasty for a guy that's the last 2 seasons proven that he can do it, and he's got
he doesn't need necessarily CBAs to score well, as he's shown in the last couple of seasons either.
Yep.
It does then mean you have to want a Hawks player to do well. Which do you want to pay that cost? I don't know, Dan. Who are you looking at? Are you looking at Tom Stewart's price?
Definitely, yeah. A big watch on him. I mean, he could be 450K. By the end of this upcoming round, and I think he's been playing a bit of that centre bounce defender role where he will start the centre bounce and then come back to the half back flank and take some intercepts. Looking at the weapons they have at their disposal now, I don't think the tags are going to come. And you look at his scoring at the end of last year, playing in that sort of role where he's playing some centre bounces and then moving back. He was dominating. So. Obviously, the tags could come, but at 450, I don't think it's a big cost. It's just whether, do you want him to use up one of your defensive slots when it looks like it's probably one of the strongest scoring areas on the ground. Another I'm looking at really closely this week is Christian Petrarca. It was an uptick in his CBAs.
DPP,
yes, forward status for him, which we've wanted for years. I like him personally over a Chad Warner. I just think he has more upside, more runs on the board, and a lower floor as well. I think he can fight through a tag a bit better than the Chad. And you look at Petrarca's run. That's the thing that really is really tempting for me. His scoring has been middling, and on face value, you're not jumping to get him. But with Richmond and West Coast coming up, it doesn't guarantee good scores, obviously, but those teams have shown they don't tag, and opposition midfielders have consistently scored, putting 130s on their heads
even
every
if he
week.
sits in the square, he could kick 4 or 5.
That's
anyway,
right, yeah. So, and he is a fun player to own. I remember bringing him in a couple of years ago, and I think it was just when that forward switch happened, and he was scoring 120s from 14 touches and that sort of thing. So I think he could seriously dominate, and I think the timing is right. Even if you wait a week, I think that the timing should be pretty good for him at 480K.
Very nice. I've got a guy who's slightly cheaper than that, who I've been looking at.
I thought you were going to keep this in your back pocket.
No, I'm not. So this is not an endorsement. I don't want people to be trading him in and then coming at me angrily when he scores 30 next week. But I really want to trade in Sam Draper this week. I really want to do it. I know we mentioned in the HBF injury report that Nick Bryan's done an ACL. I suspect the Bombers are going to lean towards bringing in like a Peter Wright or a forward and letting Draper run loose in the ruck rather than bringing in a 48-year-old Todd Goldstein who could break down at any moment. And so last season, Draper came in and played the number 1 ruck role for 5 weeks, getting the mountain share of CBAs ahead of Peter Wright, and he scored 97, 35, 83, 94, 116 in that run. And 4 of those scores are really good, and one of those scores we don't talk about for selective bias reasons. So at 410K, he's a ruck forward, so you don't have to slam him in your ruck line. You can use a forward slot on him. If you're upgrading kind of your Jack Hendersons and your Elijah Sardises and your cheaper rookies and don't have a big budget this week, this is not an endorsement, but I'm kind of tempted. So, we'll see if I do actually go that way or if I go towards a day cost or so.
Just looking at that game where he did score 35, he was rucking against Sam DeConing and he scored 35 in a full game.
That's not a ringing endorsement.
It's not. There's some risks to it, but at 410K, I really like it. I'm a sucker for trading in rucks in different positions, and this is obviously the role's there, but how long will it happen? If he has a bad week, do they go back to the well and go to the 2 rucks? That's probably the thing that would put me off. Also, the fact that, you know, we might not have many forward spots left. A lot of people have like a Ryan Marrick. You're looking at Petrarca's, Warner's, even like I don't have an Isaac Rankin at the moment. But I guess if some, you know, those who maybe don't have a Horn Francis or those sort of players could definitely look at that as even at worst, he's a stepping stone. But at best, he could end up being a top 6 forward in a number 1 ruck role.
Those who have Reed on their ruck benches, the forward ruck as well, they'd be able to swing him into the ruck. So it might be
handy.
A better option for those players as well.
Yeah, possibly. And then with flex, you can go nuts as well. But so, yeah, there's a lot of reasons not to do it, but I'm leaning towards not doing it, but I'm tempted.
Speaking about fun picks, I imagine every single snap goal, you know, from 20 minutes
I'm
out.
already peeking through my eyes as an Essendon fan anyway, so I may as well add, you know, Supercoach points to it anyway. So we'll move on to the questions, bulk of the show. We've got heaps of questions. Thank you for getting your questions in on Twitter and on Instagram. We will start. We've spoken a little bit about this, but Supercoach God asked, is it viable to reset cash gen and get Ned Long, Cleary and Gross this week? And Flaggers 2024 has asked about Ned Long. Dan, as the rookie expert, do you triple downgrade this week? Is that an option?
I think it definitely is the week to at least get, you know, anywhere from 1 to 3. I'd recommend getting 2 for sure, Cleary and Gross. I think Ned Long's a bit of a luxury trade, but the more and more I talk about it, maybe I'm the explanations and maybe he is, because he's, you know, even through his juniors and that sort of stuff, he's been a contested beast.
Yep.
He's been averaging, you know, over 100 in the VFL, and he's just doing that now on the biggest stage. He's got a great tank. He can cover the ground well. He's 195 centimetres. He's a big boy. So yeah, I think it definitely is a viable week to do that, especially with, you know, we've got a Matt Carroll maybe coming next week, but there's not a heap on the horizon otherwise.
Yeah.
How many boosts, if you already used 2 boosts, do you use a 3rd boost to get all those 3 in?
Or probably not. I think it's probably only if you've used your 1 or 2 boosts, I'd say.
I reckon this week you can use 3. I think if it lets you get a day cost next week or a day cost this week or like an Uber premium, then yes, if you're boosting to bring in like a Connor Rosie, I wouldn't be doing that. But I think you can use your 3rd this week. I say trying to justify myself using a 3rd.
Hey, if it's for Sam Draper, yes.
Yeah, exactly. Tark. Mark Pittonet looks like he's coming back this week. Does that mean we trade Tom de Koning straight out? What does that mean for TDK?
I wouldn't say straight out. I think you got to give him time, see if what the ruck split is like, if they're doing more 50-50 ruck split. I know Mark Pittonet's actually been, you know, working on his forward craft a bit, so he might not just come in and just play solo ruck and have TDK go forward. You do look at the stats last year, though, and when they're both playing in the side, it is not great viewing.
Not ideal.
You look at when Pitto leaves the lineup and TDK just goes on this crazy run of 140s and 150s. So I think give it a week. He might not even, we don't even know if Pitney is in this week yet, but give it a week and see what happens.
Matt Rowell as a top 8 to 10 mid. He's getting more possession on the outside, taking marks, which is revolutionary for him. Do you reckon he's someone we can target as a top 8 to 10 mid?
Oh, yeah, for sure. At the moment, I know people might be wary of how he did last year. He had that great run at the start and then kind of fell off. But, I mean, you just look at kind of his body shape and he just looks like he's slimmed down a bit more. So he's getting it on the inside, he's getting it on the outside. He looks the complete player. So, yeah, I think he's definitely an option for us.
Yeah. Dan, question from Troy. Should I trade in Rosie this week? Will he keep his new role and will he be tagged? Because they come up against the Swans and James Jordan. What do we think about Connor Rosie?
It's a great point, yeah. I mean, that's probably the main reason why I'm steering clear just for 1 week is the fact that it could come, a James Jordan tag could come. But at the same time, Zach Butters probably is more of a match winner for them. But at the same time, is Rosie easy to stop off half back?
Yep.
So, yeah, obviously we'll find out over the weekend. But, yeah, I would say I'd be tempted to wait a week on Rosie, at least to assess the role and also whether he does cop a tag. I think he does have a pretty good run after that, though. I think he has at least one favourable opponent, North Melbourne, after that. And then the Bulldogs, who traditionally don't tag, he also pumped out a 168 against the Bulldogs last year. So, yeah, I'd be tempted to wait a week. He'll still only be about 515k, so still a very good price.
Tark, in the similar vein to Raul Sarong, is he an upgrade option? Has he bottomed out in price enough to try and grab this week?
He scored, I think, 100 points against Richmond, so you'd be probably wanting a little bit more than that out of a game against the Tigers. I think Brayshaw scored 150, so but Brayshaw is, of course, worth a lot more at the moment than Sarong. He seems to be the one that teams tag instead of Brayshaw at the moment.
100%.
So he could still be a top 8. Definitely can't rule him out. We've seen how his potential over the past few years, but I'm not looking at Sarong right at this moment.
Break even of 107 at 590k.
As an owner, I wouldn't be trading him in because it seems like every single tagger goes to him. And you look at who he's got in the next few weeks. I mean, Adelaide have done some sort of run with roles. St Kilda, big time. Marcus Windhager, you'd be surprised if he didn't saddle up to him. And then in round 10, Toby Bedford and GWS. So, yeah, I'd be waiting at least a month.
Yeah. We've got a question from Damo of the Footy Mailbag fame. He's asking about rookies. He's not very happy with his rookies, saying that most of them aren't fattening quick enough and wants to see if a Bruin manoeuvre is required to finish our teams. Dan, are you familiar with the Bruin manoeuvre?
I'm not. What is that?
So the Bruin manoeuvre is from, I think it was John Bruin won Supercoach years and years ago. And the thing that got him a long way up those ranks was trading in Travis Cloke at 450k or so.
Is that Sam Draper?
Is that Sam Draper? And then riding him to about 600 and something k and then trading him out just as everyone jumped on. So everyone was jumping onto Cloke thinking, he's got a favourable run. He's got, he's performing well. Bruin jumps off, makes a heap of cash. Cloke starts fading. Everyone goes down. The idea to get on the stocks before they get to their peak. Is that something we should be looking at this week or this year? With, I mean, as you just said, the words out of your mouth, Sam Draper. We've done it with a Ryan Marich so far. Bailey Humphrey was supposed to fill that mold. Is that the sort of move we need to be looking to make more cash, or do you have faith in the rookies that we've got coming along?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few. You look at like Christian Moraes, a Nevitt, Sardis, who have stalled, and Sardis in Sardis' case not playing, but it only takes one bigger score to really get their cash gen kicking again. I mean, even Sam Davidson, he played on the ground with no wings, a bit hard as a wingman there at Norwood. He scored 129 last game at Marvel, so I'll definitely be holding him. I think you can keep the faith with him. And look at defence. I mean, Bice, Trainer, Reid, O'Sullivan, they're all, going to surpass 300k. You would think. Probably Bice is probably more you'd almost hold him. Could be a keeper, potentially. And Lindsay was scoring well. I think we can give him a pass mark after, 1 week off with a knee injury, dropping a lower score. But he was looking like one of the rookies of the year. And then you got Tom Gross, who's pumped out an 80, and Caden Clear. I wouldn't be, looking to rash sort of things just yet. And even Levi Ashcroft, who knows if he's going to be a keeper in the forward line with, scoring 80s and 90s at the moment. So, yeah, I don't think it's required just yet. But even if it's just jumping on a little cash train like a Ned Long, I think that could potentially be a play to help just give you a bit of cash and also on-field scoring as well.
Yeah, and on that as well, it's also still round 5. Like, we're not used to upgrading this early, and the more trades and boosts and flex is kind of propelling that team. And
why hasn't my team finished yet? Round 5. Yeah, exactly.
And I think there's still a little bit of patience to be had where it's, we do want, upgrade season has been declared open, and normally that was around, 8 or 7 or 8 that would start. So I don't think it's panic stations yet, but just make sure that you do have rookies that are playing and are generating cash, and you don't have like Bo Allen sitting there for too long, or you don't have multiple guys sitting there rather that aren't making too much money. Question from Moore for you, Tark. How much faith would you have in Rowan Marshall?
Yeah, he's a bit of a weird one because he scored those 2 big tons a couple of weeks ago, and then he's gone 50 and 60 the last 2 weeks.
It's not good.
You look at his CBAs and they're pretty much exactly the same. So it's a bit of a bizarre one that he's just dropped off suddenly. I know Boyd is in kind of waiting in the wings. He was brought in as an emergency this week because I think Keeler was taken out of their side. So whether Boyd gets a gig soon as well. So do you look at Max Gawn, 70k difference between Marshall at the moment? Do you look to make that jump this week?
Yeah, maybe.
The thing with Marshall is obviously the warning signs were there. He had no preseason whatsoever. So that could be a reason why he's slowing up. But, I mean, a lot of ruckmen have gone big against Tim English. He's playing them this week. So I'd be tempted to wait it out for another week.
Yeah, I think I would hold as well. Like, if he's your biggest issue, you're probably doing all right. But, right. It's concerning, but also...
Like, there's not really that many better options
exactly.
anyway.
Like, you've got Gawn and that's about it.
Yeah.
And, I like to say it each and every week, set and forget. Don't tinker with your rucks. You'll go blind. Just stop playing with them. So
Matt Flynn, though? What about him?
Well, you shouldn't have picked him to start. So that's an exception.
No, trading him back in.
Oh,
if he comes
absolutely not. No, not having it. Question from Melanie. Do we trade Matty Roberts out?
No.
No, for me. I was there at the game on Friday. It pumped out about 60 in the second half. And Fancy Freako posted some numbers today on his Twitter. He's second for contested possessions, the Swans, which is...
Would not have picked
would not have picked it. So,
role,
I mean, obviously that's probably more intercepts, loose ball gets, that sort of thing. But, I mean, obviously, I think the question is valid that whether Riley Bice has taken some of his points there. But I think that some of his scoring, his ball use, I think it can still be there. And I think it's worth persisting with. How many times have people traded out players and then a week or two later, they burn them, like Connor Rosie,
Jason Horne-Francis.
That's right.
Not that anyone here would have traded out.
No, never.
Jason Horne-Francis.
And, also with Roberts, he had 24 touches against Collingwood, and I mean, his ball use actually wasn't the best in that game. But we've seen previously, he had only needed 25, 26 touches to ton up.
Yeah.
So he was still getting the ball. And you also look at his run, he's got 3 of his next 5 at the SCG where he has dominated. You look, he scored 95, 124 this year, and even go back to his last 4 at the SCG last year, and he's gone 95, 161, 92 and 118.
They're good numbers.
Whoa,
so
geez, you got to get this guy on the pod more often.
Hold Matt Roberts.
He can keep me off. People looking to get up to Dacos this week is a big jump. Would you consider trading him for an Uber premium? You're not trading him for Sam Draper, but are you trading him for a Dacos, or you still reckon hold?
No, I'd still hold.
Yep.
I'd still hold. Like you said, you don't trade premiums, especially when you look at that form at home he's got coming up. Nick Dacos, I think his price is about $5.80, but his break even's still pretty high. So it's not a necessity to get him in this week. You can still wait, but in saying that, his run is really good coming up.
It is. Reed, Trainer and Bice on field viable. Dan, do we, after panicking and having no rookies on field for a lot of our preseason teams, can we have 3 rookies on field? Is that...
I think so. I think that may be the way to go, and it might even be you trade in a stud El Hawley to make it happen. If you've got a Max Holmes, or for instance, you can be a bit more flexible if it doesn't work out. I've also got O'Sullivan back there at the minute as well, who has been a good on-field scorer, but went a bit lower in more of a key position role against the Crows. So the Bice, I think, absolutely, who knows? I reckon he might even be a keeper at this rate. Luke Trainer, he's just demanding the footy. I think I heard the Phantom say on the Lair this week. Yeah, he just hunts the footy, and even at junior level, he was a high ball winner. He'd take the kick in, so he's always been a good ball user, and that's the exact same as Zach Reid too. Yep. They're always looking for him to switch, and I think we're seeing it more and more. That's what his number one trait was. That's why he probably went the top 10 pick, because of his elite kick at 200 centimetres. Also, his reading of the play. So that's the big ticks in Supercoach, intercepts, and using the ball well. So I think obviously Zach Reid may get a stinker here and there, but he's got West Coast, Collingwood, North. I'd back him to be going 60, 70 at least in those games.
Yeah. Question from me from Cameron: is Draper a serious forward pod? Read my mind. I think that there's a lot of risk.
So is that your burner?
Yeah.
All of these are my burners. Yeah, I mean, yes, a lot of risk, but it could be fun, could be terrible. Could be fun, could be terrible. Tark from Cooper, there's no way on earth all of these Brisbane midfielders keep this upright, by which I mean all of them that aren't Lachie Neale scoring well and all of them that are Lachie Neale scoring badly.
Yeah, I think when you look at like the individual games, not all of them go, 130 every week. Like I think Dunkley actually had a bit of a down one this week, scored 88 or something. Yep. And then obviously Neale's a bit up and down. He can go 130, but then when he's tagged, he gets...
Well, he's a bit mid and down.
Yeah.
There hasn't been a lot of up yet. So I'm waiting for the up.
Same.
Yeah.
So am I. Well, I have Will Ashcroft, Levi and Lachie Neale at the moment. And it seems like I've picked every single wrong Brisbane Lions player. Obviously Hugh McCluggage, absolutely dominant. He's the number one scorer in Supercoach at the moment. It's going to be a bit of a moving feast, I think, that CBA mix. But it looks like McCluggage has definitely gotten more. And yeah, I'm kind of regretting getting Ashcroft, even though he scored well.
Will Ashcroft?
Will Ashcroft, just because I've already got Neale, and their mix at the moment. Yeah, they've got a lot of good scorers in there. But
do you look at upgrading to a guy like McCluggage? He'd be a massive pod. He is in, if I can find out how many teams, he's in 4% of teams. Is he someone you look at as everyone's kind of zigging towards Nick Dacos this week or Zach Merritt? Could you zag and grab the best scorer in the game that no one else has?
I think yes. Yeah.
I mean, you look at his last four, 132, 136, 156 and 135. And, as Tark was saying with Roberts before, McCluggage doesn't need 30 disposals to ton. His score against the Eagles, he had 22 touches. He was one of their most important against the Cats as well at 30. And he's laying more tackles as well. That's a big thing. I think that's probably a bigger shift against the Tigers. He had 12 tackles. And he's had, averaging, like having upwards of 6 the last month in each of his games. So, yeah, it's a big pod, but 620K, like it could blow up in your face just because of all the lines, all the midfielders there.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like he's getting towards that peak in price, but also his run coming up is pretty good. He's never going to get tagged in that midfield.
That's true.
I don't know. Maybe
he's someone
he
tagged? Does he get tagged because he provides that? He's the finishing touch.
Well, I don't know. Then he let Lachie Neale off the chain, and
it's true.
I don't know. Yeah, Dunkley could also be in line for a tag before then. Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting one. There's a question about, is it time to drop Elijah Hewitt? If he's not named, I think so.
Yeah, sideways to Kate Cleary. Easy one.
Yeah. Another question from Bailey is, if it's stupid to trade out all three of Callaghan, Roberts and Clayton Oliver this week, is that a dumb idea?
Don't want to call our questioners dumb. But
stupid.
There's a but coming.
Yeah. Well, Clayton Oliver is a hold. Clayton Oliver's definitely a hold. He's got, I think, Richmond, West Coast next three, like obviously track. And he hasn't been, scoring awful. It's not like he's dropped a 50 or a 60. I think he's above 80 every game so far this season.
He's been fine.
So, he wasn't like a 600K where we're going, we wanted him to score huge every week. He started as a kind of mid-price.
Yep.
So I wouldn't be worried about him.
No, we spoke about
Roberts. We said to hold. Callaghan, I feel like every week you're just like, maybe one more, but then he's just never really
He'll come good. He'll come good.
Yeah. I think it's time to cut losses with Callaghan. Like, he just wins too much uncontested footy, which is his role. He's meant to be the distributor in that midfield group. You got Tom Green feeding it out to him. He's actually flying under the radar a bit, I think, Tom Green. But yeah, at 410K, you're not getting a lot from him, so it could be better to hold on. But gee, if he's just pumping out 70s each and every week, you could downgrade him to a Ned Long, who's probably might be getting a similar return. Yeah. Bank that 130K, he gives you cash gen as well from what he earns, and then you can spend that elsewhere. Yeah,
or go the other way and use some cash around from other players to then upgrade him to
a Rosie
or a Dacos or whoever you can get.
The only thing is his next 2 weeks, I don't think he's going to cop a tag like he has been recently, but he does have Sydney after that.
Yeah, so. I don't know if the tag is his biggest issue anyway. It's kind of Tom Green cutting his lunch a bit in the centre square, but I don't know. I feel like, especially if you'd brought him in after his 2 good scores, I feel like you kind of you can cut him. You can swallow your pride and go, this didn't work. I can move on. I think that's okay. And part of Supercoach is admitting that you get it wrong.
And he's actually gone down 25K his starting price. So it's not like you're losing a heap from trading him out from when you did, if you did get him after that round 2 game. So, yeah, it's an interesting one though.
Yep. And then I think we'll wrap it up on this one. We've spoken a little bit about it, but which primos are you really looking to upgrade to? Like, what's the, who are you bringing in this week? What
this week?
Yeah.
Well, I think I'm only double downgrading this week. But if I was looking at it, it's probably Petrarca with an eye to those 2 weeks after, or Rosie if you want to take that risk and you're confident he's not going to get tagged. Dacos as well. If you've got the cash, I think definitely Dacos is probably atop that list.
Yep. Tark, who's your one shout out this week of who you'd be targeting?
Yeah, I'm looking at Max Holmes this week. Just because of the price matches up. I've only got 1K left to spare. So it feels kind of meant to be.
That's a sign.
Yeah.
That's a sign, yeah.
So, yeah, Max Holmes, you've seen him without the tag. He goes 120s and 140s. With the tag, a little bit more of a worry.
Yep.
Don't think Hawthorn.
Finn McGuinness, do you reckon that's a decent... I'd be concerned by that just because he's been switching between defence and halfback, defence and the midfield. And Finn McGuinness, he's sort of been starting more as a forward. Hasn't really done many tagging jobs this year, but he did go to who did he tag against GWS? Did he tag someone? Maybe I got that wrong. Maybe Callahan. He went to Callahan, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that's a bit of a watch.
Yeah, a little bit, but just like those scores without the tags.
No, they're good.
No,
they're scary whenever I see somebody come up against me in a matchup. I'm like, oh, they've got Max Holmes. I don't like that. The guy I'm really looking at this week, I'm looking at Dacos as the big one everyone's looking to bring in this week. He's the cheapest he's kind of going to get. But I also really like Zach Merritt. At the moment, he's 613K. He's about his starting price. But I think he's shown, especially that Adelaide game, he's hitting the scoreboard more this year. He's just, I don't know, he's looking a lot better as a footballer. It's not necessarily translating Supercoach-wise, but his run coming up of West Coast over there, Collingwood at Anzac Day, which is a massive game he always gets up for, and then North Melbourne at Marvel. You've got 3 potentially really big games there for him, and I really like that run.
The thing is, though, I traded in Merritt. I think he went huge 7 weeks in a row. He was about this price, paid up over 600K, and then he sort of just, and it was the exact same, like, he's got West Coast, he's got all this, and then it just sort of, he didn't quite get what I was after, and he sort of always is that 115 guy, isn't he? And I feel like he's the kind of guy you can always get for 560K.
Yeah, that is true. But the lesson we should have learned from last year is that you don't want to pay up 600K for your Matt Rouse or your Caleb Strongs, who just kind of fell away a little bit. Luke Ryan did the same.
Yeah. He's another one, Raul, just to get him in. I'm seriously considering him. Obviously, coming up against Richmond this week. Yeah, and it is juicy. Like, he's still, you can probably afford to wait. He's still got a relatively high break even, but 3 of his 4 scores so far over 125.
Yeah.
So
there's also a cheeky
TIO games coming up.
True.
As well. Pig and Mud up there.
I brought in Noah Anderson last week, just as a rogue. I don't know what I'm doing. Scored 113, has Richmond this week. The TIO game's coming up, which he doesn't play as well as Rao does, but he's in that 560K bracket that's quite tasty. Anyway, that is us for Breaking Even with Al Paton, with Patch this week. That's all we've got time for. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for your questions. Thank you, Dan and Tark, for hanging out for a little while.
No, thanks for letting me blabber on about rookies for 40 minutes. It was good fun.
Cheers, it's been great.
No, well done on your debut. I reckon that's a ton. I think you called it well.
He's a lock.
He's a lock.
I'd be tempted to trade him in before his second game, to be honest.
Bring him in. That's all for this week. Happy Supercoaching. Happy trading. We will see you next week.